The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Yaron Brook Show. We'll be having an exciting few days, a good week. You guys watching the counts? Are you watching every vote come in as it comes in? Oh my God, it's like this is unbelievable how slow and dull and third world-like and just insanity. You would think in the land of in the United States of America, you would think we'd have like vote on your computer, like blockchain. One of you guys must be a blockchain expert, right? All you Bitcoin guys and blockchain guys, there must be somebody out there who has figured out how to create a blockchain system where you go on, you can verify your identity, you've got a camera, take scan of your eyes, I don't know, whatever, fingerprints, whatever, verify your identity, vote anonymously, and everything is secured by crypto, whatever, and it tallies instantaneously. I mean, it seems like it's a no-brainer. Why can't I don't know, Elon Musk or one of these guys just get this? I vote. I love it. I vote. Apple should get into this business. I vote. You know, of course, then they'd accuse Apple of rigging the elections, and you'd have cronyism and a problem. It would be a problem. But maybe they should hire the people who devised. You remember that amazing website that they devised for Obamacare? That was pretty cool, and they could use the same technology company, and they could set that up. That would be pretty amazing. No, I'm serious. I mean, it is. Wait a minute. I don't have my lights on. Wait. It's like we're third world. We've got people putting things into scanners. We've got people by hand. What is this? What is this? Oh, yeah, Robert makes a good point. And what about people who don't have computers? Well, set up these warehouses full of computers with some privacy curtains and stuff, and have an interface, have Apple design the interface, right? Make it super simple. Look into the camera, press this button. Is this your name? Who are you voting for? This guy, or this guy? No. Yes, you have to, people who don't have computers will have to go somewhere to vote. But now they can do it on their phone. And everybody has a smartphone. No, sorry, no excuses. Nobody gets disenfranchised. We can make this happen. Make America reasonable again. I don't know, efficient again. Non-third world banana republic again. That would be nice. So yeah, I mean, this voting stuff is insane. It is complicated because of federalism. Every state has its own laws. Every state has its own regulations. Do you know why Florida got all the votes done within hours and Pennsylvania hasn't? Well, basically two different, state laws. And it's interesting because everybody is yelling fraud. I think the president is on right now live at a press conference, yelling massive fraud, they're stealing the election from him and so on. But why are all the votes that are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania right now coming in as Biden votes? Because we knew from the beginning that, and everybody was reporting on this, everybody reported on this, including the Republican Party, including Donald Trump, that the mail-in votes were going to be Democratic. The Democrats were using mail-in votes and Republicans were going to show up at the polls. Well, in Florida, what they do is they start counting the mail-in votes a couple of weeks before the election day. So as they come in, they're counting them. So when they're starting to report results, like Wednesday night, whenever that was, no, it was Tuesday night. Whew, seems like ages ago. Tuesday night, they had all the mail-in vote results ready. And this is why Biden, at the beginning of the night, had a huge lead in Florida. And the Democrats were celebrating. It was like, yeah, we've won this, man. We're taking Florida. And then every 30 minutes, every hour, Trump votes came in, more came in. Why? Because those are the votes that are actually being cast during the day. And by huge leaps and bounds, suddenly Florida turned from blue to red, and the red got darker in a sense that his margins grew. Right? So in Florida, you got the mail-in votes counted first, then the day of the voting. Now in Pennsylvania, they're not allowed to start counting the mail-in votes until the election is over, until the in-person voting is over. So in Pennsylvania, when they started reporting the votes, they were reporting all the day of votes, which were dominantly Republican, which were dominantly for Trump. So the state was overwhelmingly red. And since then, they've slowly been recording and counting the mail-in votes. And it takes time because we have a antiquated system. So it just takes time. So they're slowly counting. And yes, most of these votes, and given the counties from which they're coming in, an overwhelming majority of these votes are Democratic, are for Biden. So slowly, Pennsylvania is becoming a little less red and tilting. So we're now, I think, what's the gap right now? I mean, it went from like 500,000, and now it's, oops, wrong view. Wait a minute. No, what are you doing? All right, I'll get you the gap in Pennsylvania is, quick math, basically 75,000, let's say, 75,000 votes. And can Biden make that up? Yeah, probably. Maybe. It's hard to tell. No, it's actually, it's less than 80. If you look at it right now, I'm looking at the tallies, 3188 to 3262. So it's just a quirk of the way the states run the election. How do we know there wasn't massive fraud in Florida that led to the massive run-up in Trump votes after the fact, or fraud before in the mail-in votes, or whatever? Bashingen says, he says, paper voting leaves paper trail, e-voting could be hacked. Yeah, but that's why I'm saying blockchain. My understanding is you could create a secure network. I mean, isn't that what crypto is? I mean, isn't the whole idea of Bitcoin that you can move money around and it's completely secure and it can't be hacked? I don't know. This is beyond my pay grade. But don't you think that we could build a system if we left it to our best entrepreneurs? Ian says, not with blockchain. Fine, I don't care. But just fix this disaster. It should be easy to vote. Stefan asks, any chance there was been tampering with elections? Of course. There's always tampering with elections. I mean, again, I'm a cynic when it comes to government and elections and political parties. I mean, everything from my understanding is that the reason JFK won is because the Daley family delivered votes of dead people in Illinois that tipped the balance in 1960 against Richard Nixon and for JFK. So is there fraud out there? Yes. Is it only Democrats? No. Why would you think that? What is there in the world to suggest that only Democrats would do this? I mean, I'm talking about local operatives. No, I'm not talking about a grand scheme. Is there a grand scheme? No. Couldn't get away with it. But no, you know, the Trump administration is suing. We have a rule of law in this country. We have courts. We have judges, many of which were appointed by Trump. Even Fox News, Fox and Friends, like the cheering society for, what do you call it, for Trump, thinks this is nonsense. I mean, really. There is fraud. It's likely to be small scale. It's likely to be here and there. It's likely to affect both political parties. Is there fraud at a scale that would win this particular presidential election when lawyers are everywhere? Lawyers are being deployed to the precincts from before the election. Everybody knew this was going to get to litigation. There were lawyers everywhere. Where would there be fraud if the lawyers are looking over everybody's shoulder? And the lawsuits are coming, and some of the lawsuits have already been thrown out. Some of the lawsuits are still coming. I just read that the Trump administration is suing Nevada for fraud. All right, let's see. My guess is, educated guess, there's going to be none of it. None of it's going to be provable. There are lots of graphs online. There are lots of images online. There are lots of numbers being reported online. Before you believe any of them, verify them. Check their source. I mean, I've told you this for years now. I don't use quotes unless I go and watch the video and figure out if the quote is real. If somebody's reporting some factual thing, I double check it. You can't trust anybody, certainly not on Twitter, on Facebook. Yeah, most lawyers are Democrats. So there are no Republican lawyers? I mean, the Republican Party didn't send lawyers to all the polling places? Really? I mean, are they that incompetent? Weren't they talking about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months ago that the Republican Party was going to send lawyers to all these polling places? Of course they sent lawyers, Republican lawyers. I mean, the Republican Party is not going to hire Democratic lawyers. Really? People, slow down. Think it through. Check your sources. Verify the evidence. I've seen these screenshots that more people voted, I think, in Wisconsin than actually are registered to vote for Wisconsin. Is that true? I don't know. You do a little search on the web and you'll find that that is just untrue. And if you're not sure about something, search for an explanation. The problem is that people just are unbelievably, unthinkingly gullible and buy into any story, particularly if it reinforces their prior beliefs, particularly if it reinforces their prior emotions, their prior, Starjet voted for me. Cool. The reason I have been so anti-Trump all these years is because exactly what's going on tonight. He is a president who, before he ran for president, was a conspiracy theorist. Remember the birth of conspiracy. He was a president who is now using conspiracy theories to try to hold on to power when it looks like, there's no fight, we don't have final numbers, but it looks like the democratic process, the process of voting, has voted him out. And by the way, it's not a democratic process, it's a Republican constitutional process because we don't have straight democracy. If we did, he'd be clearly out because he clearly lost the popular vote. Now, he claims that he won the popular vote in 2016 and that was fraud even back then. Well, if he believed that, then why didn't he send more lawyers? Why wasn't he even better prepared? I mean, don't buy this nonsense. Don't buy it. I mean, we saw with Richard Nixon. Yeah, politicians cheat. Politicians are corrupt. These things can be bought and sold. But that was a Republican, by the way, Richard Nixon. So why do we think one party is cheating more than the other party? Particularly when, if you think about it, Democrats were supposed to win in a landslide. And they didn't. That seems suspect to me. And if Democrats are cheating, why aren't they cheating in the Senate races? I mean, maybe they are. We haven't called the Senate yet. You know, we'll see what happens. But why aren't they cheating more effectively, I guess is my point. Why are they so bad at it? Why did the Republicans gain in the House? I mean, if they're really this good, don't you think that we would have seen a blue wave? A blue wave, you know, why didn't the Democrats cheat to the extent of a blue wave? And they could have said, look, the polls said we're going to win anyway. So, it's just the sad state of the world that when you listen now to talk radio, when you listen to all the right-wing pundits, except at Fox, which seems to be saner than a lot of the right-wing stuff, it's just this panic and hysteria. And by the way, the pundits should understand that there's nothing really to panic about. It looks like the Republicans will hold the Senate. And if the Republicans hold the Senate, then what can Biden do? How bad can it really get? All the things that we were told. You know, communism was coming to America. Are not going to happen because the Republicans, the bastions, the protectors of freedom, will not let it happen. JJ whatever, I can't pronounce his name, asked, does Trump have delusions of grandeur or is he that manipulative? It's impossible to tell. I think it's both. I mean, Trump, in my view, has a kind of primacy of consciousness mentality. If he believes it's strong enough, then it is. It is the reality. And the fact that it doesn't quite work like that out in the world means that somebody is screwing with him. So he is delusional. I think he is he's not connected to reality. And he has delusions about the world, but he also has delusions about his own grandeur. And because of that, because he's a pragmatist and he doesn't hold to any principles and he has no moral principles, he is, completely open and thinks that it's fine to manipulate people to say whatever it takes to get his way. So, I think absolutely he's manipulative. He's a very, 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 very smart marketer. The one thing that Trump has always been good in his life is at marketing. And you can see it. You saw it throughout the presidency. You saw it in the campaign. He's a great campaigner. And you can see it in his attempt to manipulate all of us. By the way, you can ask questions through the Super Chat. I know I'm not doing it right now, but, I give priority to questions of $20 and more. And, of course, that is also a great way to support the Yaron Brook Show and keep us going and keep us running. Of course, much larger contributions than that are always appreciated. Somebody actually said they were going to give me $1,000 to do a show on the elections, and I don't know if he's here, but what happened to that? Never saw that $1,000. Anyway, please feel free to use the Super Chats to support the show and to ask questions. Elijah asks, read up on Kennedy-Nixon election. DNC is very good at fraud. It was back then, yeah. Did the Republicans land? Ever read of Operation Norwood's real conspiracies do happen? Sure. But again, it doesn't look like they're very good right now. They should have had Biden win much easier, and they could have had the Senate and could have gained in the House. And why do you think the Republicans haven't learned? And if you read about the Nixon 1972 election, you know that he's very good at, or tried to be, he got caught, at criminal activities around elections too. So why are we assuming that power lusters on the left are better at this than power lusters on the right and do it more frequently? I see no evidence to suggest that that is true. Why do many people, particularly on the right, explain events with conspiracy theories rather than with ideas? Well, because they're anti-ideas. Ideas are hard to explain, and their ideas can't explain the movement of history. The movement of history, to explain it in ideas, in terms of ideas, you have to be a genius like Leonard Peikoff in Ominous Parallels or in Dim. You have to see connection between philosophy and real life, philosophy and politics, philosophy and culture, philosophy and education, philosophy and science. You have to understand that the world is shaped by ideas, not just political ideas, which is where everybody is. Everybody thinks only in terms of political ideas. But that the world is shaped by moral ideas, epistemological habits, practice, if you will. That's what shapes the world. And nobody sees it that way because everybody has the same moral beliefs. They're all some variation of altruist or pragmatist, which is the negation of morality altogether. And then on the flip side of that, they wouldn't know what an appropriate epistemology is and how your view of integration shapes the world. You'd have to be a Leonard Peikoff to do that. Oh, man. I mean, all hell is breaking loose in the objectivist movement, I guess. So David Harriman now posted a big criticism of AOA today. Scott says he has a history as a Peikoff ally. Are you planning to talk to LP? But, I mean, you're skipping the fact that a few years ago, Dave Harriman stabbed Leonard Peikoff in the back in kind of a pretty big public fashion, went over to David Kelly, claimed that he's always been friends with David Kelly, even while he was hobnobbing, being super friendly with Leonard Peikoff, hiding the fact that he was friendly with David Kelly from Leonard Peikoff, even though he knew that they were basically philosophical, ideological enemies. I mean, would Leonard Peikoff have worked so closely with David Harriman, knowing that David Harriman was a friend of David Kelly? And look, I could tell you stories about Dave Harriman and his relationship to the Institute and his attitudes and everything. But as he says in his criticism of AOI, he got a ton of money from AOI to work on books. One book which he never completed, but he got years of money for that. To a large extent because of Leonard's support, but because of my support, not just Leonard's support. And Leonard's support it wasn't just because of Leonard's support. Everybody thought he was really, really smart and really, really good, and we were excited about him writing the book, and we supported Logical Leap and, promoted Logical Leap. And the other book, which we gave him a lot of money to write, never got written. So, yeah, LP seems to have forgiven Bonnie for working for a bit. Okay, well... All right, let's move on to this boring stuff. And as I told you, more of it is going to happen. More of it is going to come out. Carl has opened the floodgates, and he is not going to stop. And, all the haters of AOI are going to rally around the Carl Bonnie cause and make a big deal out of it. So, yes, it's going to be... It's going to be quite a thing in the months to come. Years to come, maybe. Who knows? This could last years. This is not going away. Not going away. All right, Sam asks, if Democrats win but fail to solve the pandemic and economic issue, will we see the end both of Trumpism and moderate Democrats by next election or two? I don't think you're going to see the end of Trumpism. I said this yesterday. I think Trumpism is going to come out of this election very strong. I think that basically Trump did very, very well, given his failure with COVID, given the economy where it is today. Trump has done brilliantly. I mean, the election is very close. He could have won this. I mean, it's really razor-thin margins. This election has vindicated Trumpism. And I don't think Trumpism is going away. I think if the economy fails under Biden, which it probably will at some point, then nobody will blame Trump because Trump lost. They'll blame Biden. And Trumpism, as reflected in Tucker Carlson and Josh Hawley and Tom Cotton and others, will dominate. And I think is going to dominate the Republican Party. Anti-trade, anti-immigration, and pro what they call industrial policy type nationalism. That will be the dominant thing out there. And so I don't think Trumpism is going away anyway. I don't think this loss is a loss of Trumpism. It's a loss for Trump, but it's not a loss of Trumpism. Bashingen is saying, would you still be asked, as you mentioned earlier, to advise Republicans on rebuilding, fixing the party? I am. I'm working with a group. I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know how real it is. It's going to depend on whether they get financial support from one of the big Republican donors. We are working on a platform, an ideological platform. I've been advising on that. It's not an objectivist platform. It's what a Republican platform could look like in order to rally around people to fight Trumpism. But whether it had legs, I don't know. These are people I know who know me from over the years. One of them, I won't mention who they are. But one of them is a marketing specialist. The other two are kind of political operatives in the Republican Party. I'm not too, I'm excited about it because it's fun work, right? They wrote this thing and then I told them it was crap and they had to change it. I'm exaggerating, but I gave them a lot of the formulations and I think they're good. Again, it's not the capitalist party. It's not the objectivist party. It's for the Republican Party. And that's what I really wanted to talk about today. I really wanted to talk about today kind of a positive vision. Really, I'm going to assume, and granted it is an assumption because until the vote is certified, until all these votes are counted, I'm going to assume Joe Biden is going to be president because that looks like by a long shot, the most likely scenario, right? And that the Republicans keep the Senate. So they control the Democrats and prevent them from doing the crazy, nutty, insane things, right? And the question is, what do we do? What do you do? What do all of us do to try to make the world a better place? To try to diminish the negatives in the political world in which we live. Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again. The most important thing you can do is live. Take these ideas that you have and apply them to your life and make your life a great life. Enjoy living. Forget about these elections. Forget about politics. Forget about Democrats and Republicans and Libertarians and think. Just find something you love to do and do it. Go out there and create a beautiful space for you to live in, to work in, to create in. I mean, I try, right? And so the primary focus you should have in your life is on your life and how to make the best of it, how to make the most of it, how to enjoy it, how to be productive, how to have a great career, how to make money, how to find somebody you love, how to create a family that you love, how to live a happy life. And politics should be third, fourth, fifth, sixth, I don't know, 10th on the list of things to worry about, things to be concerned about. Because you know what? There are lots of things day to day in your life that you should be dealing with, that you should be confronting, that you should be managing, that you should be improving on, that you should do to make your life the best that it can be. And that should be your primary focus. And by the way, even just that helps spread good ideas, because people will come to you and say, how come you're so happy? How come you're so successful? What's your secret? Well, I read. Here's Atlas Shrugged. You should read it. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. So, first and foremost and always, focus on your life. Make yourself a better thinker. Make yourself a better liver. Make yourself take the ethics seriously. Live up to the ethics. Take pride. We haven't talked about pride yet. We'll do a show about pride soon. But take pride seriously. Pride means living up to your best, striving for perfection, being the best that you can be. And that's just a cliche, but it's real. It's what life is about. But what do we do politically? I am saving your super chat questions. I will get to them. What do we do politically? Can we do anything politically? And my answer is absolutely yes. But before we get to the positive, let me say something about the negative. We will not move this country 1 inch if we play partisan politics. We will not move this country 1 inch if we become tribalists. If we embrace a political party because it's a political party, and then we follow everything that it says. We cannot move anything, the world, an inch forward. For example, by becoming Trumpists and supporters of Trump to the extent of never criticizing him, accepting everything he does, and thinking that anybody who criticizes anybody who is against him is the emphasis enemy. Don't think in terms of Republicans and Democrats. Think in terms of what you should always be thinking in terms of. Truth. What is true? What is right? What is just? Is this policy moving us towards greater freedom? Or isn't it? Is this policy supportive of individual rights or a violation of individual rights? That's what needs to happen. That's what we need to focus on. So if a Republican does something good that promotes individual rights, it's moving in that direction, let's support that policy without enshrining the man as a super god. And if that same Republican does something that's antagonistic to individual rights, that's bad, that's wrong for freedom, then let's criticize that. And the same with the Democrat. No matter who is in power, no matter who's passing the bills, we should support that, not the party, not the personality. Those bills that support freedom, that move us in that direction, and object to those that don't. And look, always keep in mind, though, the bigger picture. So, for example, yeah, we're always going to support tax cuts. But we should never be super excited about tax cuts, because on their own, they do nothing. What we should really be excited about and emphasize and push and get people engaged on is on cutting spending, which is what they don't want to talk about, what they don't want to be engaged on. So that's our job. Cutting taxes is easy. Every Republican in history has done it. Let's focus on the hard stuff. cut the spending. Reform entitlement. Yes, ultimately we want to get rid of all entitlements. There shouldn't be Social Security, there shouldn't be Medicaid. But you're not going to win that argument, and you're not going to win it, and you don't really believe it in the short run. It has to be phased out. So for now, let's talk about restructuring entitlements. For example, here's a great issue for us. There is a massive redistribution of wealth going on right now, and it's going to go on for the next 20 years, from young people to old people. From young people to old people. So, for example, old people are using Medicare, and the baby boom generation is going to drive up the cost of Medicare to dominate the budget. I mean, all other spending will be irrelevant. Social Security is bad, but Medicare is much worse. And who pays for old people's Medicare and Social Security? Well, don't let anybody fool you. The money that they paid into the system is being spent a long time ago. And so it's young people paying for their health care, for their Social Security. So we need to pick up the mantle and talk about phasing out, privatizing, reforming entitlements. And the best way to do that is kind of let the old people who are 65 already have what they were promised and privatize everything else. Yeah, the left will say all kinds of things about us. Of course, the right says the same thing. It's not like the right will actually pass any of this. They've had the Senate, the House, and the presidency. They had it under Trump. They've had it under Bush, and they did none of this. None of it. It's our job to talk about it. It's our job to bring it up. It's our job to push these ideas constantly and emphatically, and to create a momentum around it. This is the way you get to young people. Your life sucks, not because there's not enough welfare, not because of, I don't know, systemic racism. Your life sucks because you're going to be taxed so high in order to fund Medicare for people you don't know. We have to get engaged in politics, not in the little partisan stuff. We have to get engaged in politics on the principled stuff, on the big stuff, on the stuff nobody else will talk about, on the stuff we're the only ones who are willing to say. Yeah, somebody says, yeah, we should be advocating for not how much the steel tariff should go up or down and which country should we have it on. There should be no tariffs, zero tariffs across the board. And then, if you want to deal with China stealing this or doing that, then you can have sanctions. You can shut down the embassy. You can surround them with the Sixth Fleet, whatever. Sixth Fleet's in the Mediterranean, so they'd have to travel over there. But, you can deal with them. But tariffs is not the way. Tariffs is just, it's anti-individual rights. It's a violation of the rights of Americans. It's a tax increase. But so many people in the free market world got caught up with the aura of Trump, and you can't criticize him and all of that. This time tariffs are good. This time the Chinese will pay. This time trade wars will work. This time will be different. Really? It's just straight. Yeah, intellectual property theft, then sanction them. Or boycott them completely. But tariffs are not the way you deal with intellectual property theft or anything else. Tariffs is a tax on your own people. It's not a way to deal with other countries. Again, this is 101. This isn't controversial. This isn't difficult. This is why it's so frustrating. And the whole Trump presidency was frustrating. Because he did stuff that was obviously anti-individual rights, obviously anti-freedom, obviously bad for America. And people supported those policies because it was Trump. So, if you want a better world, if you want elections in the future where you might have a candidate that you'd be excited to vote for, then we have got to be principled and consistent and fight for the things we actually believe in. Fight for the ideas we actually believe in. Not the ideas that are going to win, not the ideas that this or that candidate might or might not support, not get caught up in personalities, but fight for the ideas that we believe in. Advocate for policies that move us there. It doesn't mean you have to get it all at once. It doesn't mean Social Security goes away all at once. It doesn't, on immigration, which I know many people disagree with me on. It's not that I'm advocating tomorrow open borders. Ultimately, yes. But in the meantime, there's a phasing in. And part of that phasing in would be, for example, that I've given is allow anybody in who has a work permit. So work on the principles, work on the foundational ideas, and whenever you're tempted because you like this guy or you like that guy or because politically, stop yourself. Check your premises. Go back to basics and fundamentals. Go back to principles. That's the beauty of principles. Go back to principles and say, is this policy consistent with my principles? Is me supporting tariffs on China consistent with my principles? Somebody asked about the Lex Friedman interview. I just don't know. I wish I knew. I thought it was going to be, he's bouncing around. Some of the interviews he's releasing seem to be older ones. Others were from his trip to California and Oregon when he was traveling, because you can see it's in a hotel room. So I don't know. At some point, the interview will be out. It is a 3-hour interview, a little over, I think, 3 hours. And I think it was great. I think it was a really good interview. I think Lex really enjoyed it. There were a number of times where he seemed blown away by my answers. So I think it's going to be fun for everybody, for you guys, and more importantly, much more important than you guys, sorry, are the new people who this will expose them to me, who probably don't know who I am and who've never seen me before, because he has a very unique audience. So I'm very, very excited to see it. Hopefully we'll get good viewership. Eric Weinstein just, got 600,000 views or something, his interview with Eric. But Eric Weinstein is huge. I'm not quite as well known and popular. So we'll see how well it goes. So my point is that we need to start focusing on the positive, on what we want. Stop playing defense. Focus on what we can get, on where we can go. Focus on the issues important to us, not on other people's issues. Focus on our principles, not on their principles. So the whole point has to be positive. The virtues of capitalism, the wonders of the modern world, the amazing world we live in, how you can make your life so much better. How under freedom we succeed. So even entitlements is not a big issue for us, because the only reason we want entitlements to go away is that you young people can have more money to invest in yourselves, invest in your life, invest in what you want to do. So we need to be less negative and more positive. We need to be more unique and less just part of the crowd. We need to be more controversial. We need to be more out there. We need to be less conventional. Again, what Trump did to some people who call themselves objectivists is he made them conventional because they just became Trump heads, justifying everything he would do, even shockingly for me, hugging, and hanging out with the dictator of North Korea. They even justified that. I mean, that's, again, 101. So get away from the partisan stuff. Get away from the nationalism, the xenophobia, the closed-mindedness, which I see so much around me. Let's be positive. And on this positive note, I want to make one more point. I listened to, I saw a talk recently by Peter Diamandis. I don't know if you guys know Peter Diamandis. He wrote a book called Abundance. And I read the book too. And the book is really interesting. And the talk was really interesting. And I'm so jealous of Peter and others like him in Silicon Valley, because he is so optimistic. Tell with politics. Tell with all this rioting and demonstrations and this BS. We are potentially on the cusp of some unbelievable technological revolutions. Whether in biotech or whether in AI or robotics or just technology more broadly, autonomous cars, we are on the cusp of amazing things, of amazing achievements, of amazing potentials. I mean, it really is true that the potential for life extension is stunning in terms of what is potentially possible to achieve in the next 10, 20, 50 years. AI and robotics will increase, will dramatically improve healthcare, have the potential to dramatically improve our lives. Dramatically improve how we do everything. And indeed, autonomous cars will reduce deaths on the road dramatically and save you huge amounts of time because traffic jams will be less frequent and you'll be able to work while the car is driving itself. Now, again, all these things depend on regulations. They depend on politics and politicians staying away. But our focus should be on that. Free up the mind, free up the innovators, free up these people to make our lives better. Yet we obsess on how evil these businessmen are instead of obsessing about how wonderful they're making life for us and how evil the people who are trying to stop them are. I mean, there is, again, artificial intelligence and robotics is going to take away jobs, yes, but they're going to take away the jobs nobody wants to do. The jobs that are too dangerous. And one of the points Peter Diamandis makes, I've made this point before, but it's rare to find somebody make the point, so I was so impressed that he did it, is that AI makes us all smarter. AI is a tool that makes people, let's say with mediocre or even low IQ, much, much smarter. And I'm not talking about the chip that you plant in the brain, which, wow, I mean, that would be pretty amazing when they do that. I know Elon Musk has a company called Neuralink that does that, or is working on it. But I'm even talking about just the fact that I'm at a computer and I have access to all the information ever produced at my fingertips, instantaneously, easily. I mean, that's just made me much smarter. I know more. I have access to more. I can do more. And this is just the beginning of what these computers will be able to do. We are just at the cusp of a potential revolution that will change human life in ways that I don't think we can fully comprehend. You'd have to be a science fiction writer to fully get it. And instead, we instead of focusing on that, We focus on this nonsense within the objectives movement. We focus on this political BS. We obsess about voter fraud and who gets elected president as if it makes that much difference. We should be defending progress, defending industry, and the most important industry right now is technology, defending and allowing for innovation and for growth and for, I want to live to be 250 years old in a healthy way, not connected to machines. And to do that, we need to be the defenders of technology, the defenders of business, the defenders of freedom, the defenders of getting the regulators off of us. Again, it was this administration that went after Google in an antitrust lawsuit just a few weeks ago. If you want me to answer questions, you're going to have to super chat them because I can't see in the string of things what you're asking. And why would I ask that? Why would I answer them versus questions that are being posed and dollars put to them? Yeah, somebody says flying cars. I mean, drones. Look at the drone technology. Amazon got a permit now. Look, it needs a permit. That's disgusting. But it got a permit to use drones to deliver to you, to your doorstep, the stuff you need. I mean, that's cool. And that's what we should be defending. That's what, not just defending, we should be fighting for it. Not defending, we should be on the offensive. We should team up with the people doing this amazing technology. And we should understand this technology and its impact on human life, and we should be advocates for it. Now, I intend to start doing that on a much more significant basis. So I'll be starting a new podcast in January that has as its focus, innovation, progress, what it takes, what's required, what's happening. I'm going to try to get some of the top innovators to come on the show, and I'll do interviews. The show will be primarily interviews. There's a lot of stuff that I intend to do in the years to come on this. Not objectivism, but not inconsistent with. Completely consistent with objectivism, but not objectivism, not philosophy, but something positive about innovation, growth, progress, success, new technologies, how far we can go, and what does it take. So it will very much be an anti-regulation podcast, right? We will talk about how regulations destroy technological progress. This is part of the thing. Yeah, Matt Ridley will be somebody I invite. But I don't want to say too much because I've got big plans. And it's bigger than Matt because Matt has some flaws. And part of the thing will be to engage with Matt, and then to engage with other people and to build towards a real understanding of innovation and progress, a real understanding of, and there might be some new terminology involved. I mean, there's a lot that we're going to be working on in the next few months leading up to this January launch of the podcast. And it's going to be a multi-year project, and ultimately, there might even be an investment component to it and all kinds of things. So I'm really, really, really excited about it, putting plans together right now. And by the way, just so you know, your contributions, your financial support for the Yaron Brook Show makes all that possible, right? It's not going to be in the early days a profit-making operations. I think ultimately, if we could create an investment product, it'll make doodles of money. But originally, it's going to be all money going out, not money coming in. And that money going out is going to be possible partially because of your support. Because you're supporting the Yaron Brook Show, which you can do on the super chat here. It's been kind of slow today, and particularly with the big amounts, we haven't had what Derek used to call the whales. The whales have not showed up, and of course, more importantly, in some sense, is the monthly contributions. And I know some of you have already added, some of you have increased your contributions. Thank you for doing that. We're still about 2,400 short of our goal of increasing contributions by $3,000 a month. So those of you who can't afford to increase your contributions, I'd really appreciate it. From 100 to 250, or 250 to 500, or from 10 to 20, 25 to 50, whatever you can do. I'd really appreciate it. You can do that on YaronBrookShow.com/support, on Subscribestar, on Patreon, on Locals, any one of those platforms will work. And of course, you can do it right here, right now, with Super Chat. That is fantastic. Also, I want to remind you to like the show before you leave. A lot of people are coming and going. I see the numbers fluctuate a lot. Before you go, if you like anything I've said, please press the like button. It helps the algorithms of YouTube recognize this show as something that people value and therefore promote. And of course, if you're new to the show, thank you for listening. It's great to have you here. And please subscribe. And if you press the bell next to the subscription button, you will also get notifications when we go live. I mean, I'm hoping to have people from the life extension companies come and talk about that. There's a lot of exciting technologies out there. I mean, it's super cool. It's super cool. And, too much of us, activists, philosophers, people who deal with politics, I mean, it's too dark. But there's a whole world out there where real progress is being made, where the world is really being changed. I mean, we take the change for granted. We take Zoom for granted. We take the ability to do this on YouTube for granted. We take our iPhones for granted. We take all that for granted. But and all of that really didn't exist 10 years ago, 12 years ago. What happens in 10 years, in 20 years? How far can we go? And why aren't we thinking about that instead of thinking about, who won Nevada? How many votes are still going to be counted? It's close. Anyway, I figured I'd make that pitch. We're gonna talk about we'll talk about. I think nuclear power is really, really interesting and really a huge potential for the future. I think that we've got companies building supersonic jets. There's really a lot of innovation going on that is exciting right now, today. All right, I didn't mark which ones were $20. Okay, this one was. My political cultured stepdad says that my standards are too high and unrealistic when responded to my reasons for not supporting Trump. I didn't know how to respond to this. How should I have responded? You should have responded that absolutely. Your standards are high, and for the world in which we live in right now are unrealistic. But you are fighting for them to become a reality because you believe there is a world out there. There is a world out there in which your views will be not just realistic, but practical and enforceable, practical in the sense that they would be applied right now, right here. And that you will not settle. You're not going to go into the sewers because right now you can't climb to the height of the skyscraper. The fact that you're an idealist, that you have ideals that are not realizable right now does not mean you're going to abandon your ideals. It means you're going to fight harder for them. So don't let old people's cynicism, don't let old people's who have given up on their ideals drag you down to where they are. You don't deserve it. And they don't deserve it. But you don't deserve it. Be idealistic. Stand up for your ideals. Live them. Don't support people that don't live up to your ideals. Your ideals are yours. They're your standards. They're not his. They're not anybody else's. They're yours. It's your integrity. We'll talk about integrity in one of the future shows, right? It's your integrity at stake. It's your life. It's your morality at stake. Too many people, because, the world is not perfect, give up on their ideals. And when they give up on their ideals, they They lose. They are the losers. They become cynical. They become bitter. They become angry. I mean, look at voters right now. Who's happy? Democrats are not happy. Republicans are not. Nobody's happy. Because they're just a bunch of cynics who've middle-of-the-road nothings, who've given up on everything. Or who are driven by hate. Take the, far left. Just driven by hate of everything. You don't want to become any of that. You live to your ideas. You're looking for the Howard Roark and John Galt's of the world. And if they're not there, then you'll keep looking. And you'll hold them as an ideal forever. And you will strive to make yourself as close to them as you possibly can. That's what it's about. But the people who give up will always want to drag you down into the sewer with them. All right, I worry the almost immeasurable bounty bestowed upon society by capitalism may ultimately be its downfall. People who would have otherwise not survived have been able to procreate and propagate their ideas, thoughts. I'm calming myself down. No. Before capitalism, people had worse ideas than they have today. Before capitalism, we had religious fanaticism of all kinds and all variations where people slaughtering each other and murdering each other over religion. We had the worst kind of superstitions of witches, and we had an attitude of torturing people in public was entertainment, taking out their internal organs with a live audience, cheering it on. That was entertainment. This is pre-capitalism. No, the world is so much better today. Even our ideas so far are better. We don't do stuff like that. We don't have witch trials. We have other kind of trials. We still have respect. And as long as we can keep capitalism going, even somewhat, we have cancel culture, but cancel culture is not witch hunts. It's not putting the witch in the pool and saying, well, if you drown, you must have been guilty. And no, if you drown, you must have been innocent. If you don't drown, we'll have to drown you because that's what we do to witches. I mean, really. Cancel culture, I don't have a problem with cancel culture in the sense that people don't like what I say. It's fine for them to cancel me. Don't listen to me if you don't like what I say. Cancel me, please. Not if you don't like what I say. If you find what I say offensive, don't listen to me. That's called canceling. So let's not blow these things out of proportion. Cancel culture why is that a big deal? As compared to house arrest, burning at the stake, which is what cancel culture was in previous centuries. Now, we will head back into those dark ages, but we will head back into them when we give up on capitalism. So it's not capitalism's fault in any way. In any way. Bad ideas have always been around. Bad ideas have always existed. The closest we come to getting rid of those bad ideas is during the rise of capitalism. Now, it's the ideas that led to the rise of capitalism. But it's not capitalism that turned the world into bad ideas. And don't be such a determinist. It's not genes that dictate the ideas that people have. It's not genes that make them what they are. You have choices. Everybody has choices. Even people whose genes you don't like have choices. And they can choose good ideas or choose bad ideas. The reason bad ideas are winning is because those of us who have good ideas are not loud enough, are not passionate enough, are not engaged enough, are not consistent enough. We'd rather fight with each other than go out there and get the world. We'd rather We'd rather fit in than actually fight for what we believe. But this system of freedom, this system of capitalism, to the extent that it even still exists, is not creating the bad ideas. It is the only thing standing between us and the dominance of the bad ideas and the overtaking of the bad ideas. So the progress that we're making in spite of all the bad stuff that's happening in the world and because of the little freedom that we have. Freedom, even when it's just a little bit, results in amazing outcomes. Amazing outcomes. And we're living it right now. If you want to ask a question, you've got a super chat. Use it. If Democrats win, oh, we did this question. Sorry, we did that already. Another objectivism question. All right. Are these schisms and objectivism really due to philosophical differences or personality conflicts? And why does this keep happening? This same stuff was going on 20 years ago when I was in college. It's both. Some is philosophical differences. Now you can ask the question, why do some smart people get the philosophy wrong? Maybe that's psychological, maybe that's personality, I don't know. But there's always an element that is philosophical. There's usually an element that is psychological. And yeah, a lot of it's personality. I mean, personality conflict. Now, what does personality conflict mean? If somebody, and I'm not saying anybody has done this, right? But if somebody steals from me, and I decide I'm never going to have anything to do with them again, is that a personality conflict? I mean, so these categories don't fit, right? If somebody does something that I find abhorrent, is that a personality conflict? If somebody does stuff that I think is immoral, is that a personality conflict? Even if we agree philosophically, in theory, but one person practices it, another doesn't practice it. What is that? A personality conflict? A philosophical conflict? Why does it keep happening? It keeps happening, and I've said this many, many times. Listen to my rant on why we shouldn't all get along and why I'm not for kumbaya. Well, because it keeps happening because people don't understand the philosophy. It's hard to apply. People bring psychological baggage to their engagement with objectivism. That psychological baggage shapes how they behave. Right? And some of them misbehave. If I have an employee, and this hasn't happened, but if I have an employee who is an objectivist, he says he's an objectivist, he knows it all. He knows. And let's say he steals. Is that a personality conflict? Is that a philosophical difference? So you could have an assessment of another person who claims to be an objectivist that he is immoral. You can have an assessment of a person who claims to be an objectivist that he is unpleasant. You can have an assessment of somebody who claims to be an objectivist that he thinks he knows more than he does. You can have an assessment of somebody who thinks he's an objectivist that he doesn't know the philosophy, and then it's a philosophical difference, if you will. You can have an assessment of somebody else who knows the philosophy that he's trying, he's a good guy, but he just doesn't get it. Or he's got psychological problems that are preventing him from living it. You can have lots of assessments. I mean, I don't come to your house and tell you who to be friends with. I don't go to your business and tell you who you should be partners with. I don't tell you who to employ and who not to employ. I can only work with people that I respect, that I trust, that I think, if it's about objectivism, that I think understand the philosophy, know the philosophy, and then have, from my point of view, have both the philosophy, the morality, the behavior, psychology, if you will, and the personality to work with me and to get stuff done and to achieve things. Now, that's not going to be everybody. It's just not. And the other reason there are conflicts is because, reality is what it is, but we take ideas seriously. I take morality seriously. We're idealists. So when somebody screws up and won't apologize, when somebody does something horrible to a friend of yours and won't apologize and won't recognize it, then we take ideas seriously. So we pass judgment. And the consequences to judgment, it's called justice. Justice means you pass judgment and you act accordingly. So if somebody does that, I don't want to have anything to do with him in a particular, let's say, realm of life. Why is that surprising? And the bigger the objectivist movement becomes, the more splits there are going to be, the more people will disagree, the more people will not like each other, the more people will go their own way, and that's fine. I want there to be 25 different institutes promoting these ideas. Some of them will get along, some of them won't. But if we try to unify them all under one flag and one authority and one statement and one court of appeals, where everything is decided by some authority, then you've got a cult. You don't have an intellectual movement. I want an intellectual movement where people are writing, speaking, engaging, disagreeing, and sometimes those disagreements are such where they cut off from each other. That's fine. Why do you get so excited? You have to make your judgments about your life, not about my life. If I don't speak to person X, doesn't mean you don't have to speak to person X. If I choose to go out there and say, but why would we have an open debate? Why does the laundry have to be washed in public? You follow me, you follow Craig. I've never demanded this, that you stop buying the objective standard. I've never demanded that you stop engaging with Craig Biddle. I don't engage with Craig Biddle for my reasons. You do what you want to do. Now, if you pick up the phone and you're friendly with me and you ask me why, I'll tell you why. I've said once publicly why, although I try not to make a big deal out of it, because I'm not going to spend the time on it. I don't want to spend the time on it. And I think it's hard for you to have enough information to make an objective statement. Now, if I said, I don't want you, if you subscribe to your own book show, I don't want you to subscribe to the objective standard, then you justifiably would say to me, Yaron, you have to give us reasons. You have to prove this. You have to, why? But I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you the Einman Institute, have made a certain judgment about something. We won't deal with them. We've never asked you not to deal with them. Do what you want. If we ever come out and say, don't deal with him, then you should ask us why, and then it's our responsibility to provide extensive reasons. But until then, what's the point? And what's the point of having internal debates? I mean, it's one thing for me and Leonard to debate immigration in a friendly context. Partially, you know why partially we did that debate? I don't remember if we said it during the debate, but this was part of our motivation, both mine and Leonard's. We wanted a model for the objectivist world that you can disagree on an issue and still be friends and not write each other off and not. I'm not going to tell you what my criticism of Biddle. It's none of your business for the sake of what we're talking about right now. Again, you should ask if I tell you to do something about it. But I'm not asking you to do anything about it. Judge me based on what I do publicly, based on everything you know of me. Judge him based on everything you know of him. And if your judgment is they're both okay, great. I'm not mad at you. I don't think you have enough information to make the judgment I made, particularly not now, given that what happened 10 years ago. So just drop it. Now, David Kelly is a different question, because David Kelly publicly contradicted the objectivist philosophy philosophically. He, went against, in writing, a principle of the objectivist philosophy. And on top of that, then, in a sense, and I've said this before, committed fraud publicly by declaring that anything he says basically is objectivism, open system objectivism. Right? That required a public response. And that's what Leonard Peikoff did, and that's what A.R. Wright did, and said, don't deal with those people. They're frauds. They're distorting Ayn Rand's philosophy. They're perverting it, and they are bad dudes. Don't deal with them. That's it. I did tell people to consider unfriending Richard Salzman based on his statement. I mean, if you read his statement, his little thing about me, and you thought that was okay, then unfriend me. And if you thought it was as sick and perverse as it was, then please unfriend him. Don't be friends with both of us, given his statement. When Craig Biddle makes a statement like that about me, then I will let you know. But I thought that was self-evident. I don't need to explain. You really want me to go through that paragraph of Richard Salzman wrote and explain to you in detail what's wrong with it? Anybody with half a brain, anybody who knows me just a little bit, knows what's wrong with it. So, again, use your own minds, make your own decisions, and there's a world to change out there. Yeah. What Richard said was not okay. I mean, particularly, and I gave a little bit of context. I basically got him the job that he has in terms of raising the money for it. I supported Richard for years and years and years. And that was just uncalled for. If he has criticisms of me, you can write criticisms without the vulgarity and the just blatant falsehoods and the insanity, right? And he came after me. So when you're reading all this stuff coming out now, ask yourself, are they providing evidence to justify what they're saying? Are they providing evidence? Are they being consistent? Is the evidence they're providing convincing? If it is, then stop listening to my show. Cut me off. But if it isn't, I'm not going to argue against them because it'll be a waste of my time. Then come to conclusions about them. Are they using certain things dishonestly? Are they presenting their case in a dishonest way? Evaluate them based on what they're publicly saying. Evaluate me based on what I'm publicly saying. I'm not publicly denouncing anybody right now. I mean, I might at some point, but not right now. So all you've got is to judge them. Well, the movement is those people who generally think that objectivism is right and that generally want to move to a better world. And some of the people within their movement don't like each other, don't work with each other even. And I think there is a sub-movement, if you will, of people who like me and are supportive of me and of the Ayn Rand Institute and want to work to do that. And they're not working with other parts of the movement. So what? Movement is not some cult, again. It's not some cohesive unit with an authority that tells it how to do and what to do. All right, JJ says, can we get, I'm just answering Super Chat questions. Let's see. Could you do interviews with people who've used objectivist ideas to make their lives better? Yes. Yes. That seems like a great add-on to living objectivism. Yes. I mean, that's a good idea. I will try to do that. I mean, John Allison would be a great guy to interview here on the show. I'll talk to John about that. I don't know if you saw his letter today, his fundraising letter that he put out today for the Ayn Rand Institute. It's a really good letter. You should read it. It's beautifully written. It's really good, particularly given all this BS that's going on right now. Richard, the way I've been presented is I have these magical powers to manipulate people like John Allison to do what I want them to do. If you know anything about John Allison, you would find that idea funny and ridiculous. And I thought it was really wonderful, the letter that he wrote today in support of the Ayn Rand Institute, a fundraising letter in support of it. And John Allison is a pretty powerful guy, a pretty independent guy, not anybody in my secret pocket. So again, come to your own conclusions based on the publicly available information to you. I think you can come to a lot of conclusions about some of the attacks on the Institute just based on that. There is so much to hate, but just fighting against it will not work. We must offer ideals, absolutely. We must live up to ideals, offer ideals, focus on ideals, and then find the people who are applying those ideals, even in a very specialized way, and support them, and tell their story, and encourage them. Ever watch that scene from The Newsroom where Jeff Daniels gives examples as to why America is not the greatest country? Do you agree with it? I have not seen that. But look, there's no question that America was the greatest country in the sense that it's the principles on which it's founded, overall its history. No country comes close. I mean, yes, you can talk about slavery, but slavery was a phenomena. I mean, who didn't do slavery? Which country in the world didn't have slavery, didn't encourage slavery, didn't promote slavery? You could talk about any vice that America has. Every other country in the world has it worse. Worse. Right? So I think America is the greatest country ever. It's not great right now. We are losing our greatness, unfortunately. And that's what we need to fight for. We need to fight for American greatness. Make America great again is a good slogan. But you have to know what America is to fight for it. How would the government in a free system operate? Democracy, aristocracy, some form of constitutionalism, a mix. Who restricts the expansion? I mean, it would basically be constitutionalism. So there would be voting. Certainly not aristocracy. Aristocracy is the anti-free system. Any form of aristocracy is anti-free system. The idea that you're born with a title, you're born with privilege, you're born with extra benefits that other people don't have is despicable, right? We're talking about benefits before the law, not just the fact that you have more money. So no, it's certainly not aristocrats. We're constitutionalists. I think the Founding Fathers came very, very close to the government in a free society, and a constitution would restrict its expansion. But you'd have to write a better constitution than the American Constitution. It would have to be tighter in a sense of restricting, being clearer on the function of government, being clearer on what the government can do and what it cannot do. I've talked about this before. You have to have at least 4 separations in the Constitution. Separation of state from church, which should be expanded to ideas from state. Separate state from ideas. You'd have to separate state from economics. You'd have to separate state from education and separate state from science. So first of all, you would have to have a proper constitution. And then government will expand if people lose sight of the ideological basis for that constitution. People will, the government will grow and expand and get worse. If people are not vigilant about liberty, about freedom, about holding the government accountable. So at the end of the day, any system, but a free system, depends on people valuing freedom. I mean, a constitution should have a clear definition of force, or a broad definition of force, but what it means, what initiation of force is, what coercion is, and make it clear that the government can never do that. So it would be a different document than they did the best that they could, given the tools that they have. We have much better tools. We have Ayn Rand, and we have 250 years of history. We could write a much better constitution. How would the government in a free... Oh, we did this. Did I just delete the wrong one? No, that's good. I got both. I got that. All right, any other Super Chat questions? Oh, no, I thought this is the one. Response to people who claim we have to compromise and vote for Trump-Biden to limit damage and buy time until a positive character is raised. Yeah, I agree with that. What I don't agree with, I agree with that, or not vote, because you don't think either one of them limits the damage. But I agree with voting. I just don't agree with being an advocate for, and what I called an apologist for, somebody who defends everything that they do. Vote for Biden, recognizes evil, and recognize why you're voting for him and what's the purpose. Vote for Trump, recognizes evil. A lot of what he does is evil. A lot of what he stands for is evil. And recognize the good stuff, why you're voting for him. So I think you could vote either way to limit the damage, but don't become a cheerleader in an irrational way. Focus in on your ideals. Focus in on what should be. What should be. Yeah, I said yesterday, I think Trump winning this election buys us time. Did I say, what did I say? I said Biden, right? Biden winning this election buys us time. It buys us time to try to fix the Republican Party and move it away from Trumpism. It buys us time because I think to some extent Biden's winning will mute the far left and slow their progress down and slow their growth down. I think it buys us time, whereas I think Trump was an accelerant to the decline. I've said that for 5 years, since before he was elected. I thought that Trump would be an accelerant to America's decline. No, I've always been against Trump supporters in the same way. I've been against the people who support him in the way I've seen on this chat. Everything he does, blindly, irrationally, worship him, won't accept any criticism of him. I mean, that's what I've been critical of the whole time. And my job, as I see it, is to point out all his flaws, and that drove people nuts. And the fact that me pointing out Trump's flaws drove some of you nuts suggested to me that there's something weird going on with you. That people couldn't accept that I would, are you sure I'm being fair? Yeah, I think I'm being fair. I mean, if I'm not, I mean, it's such a silly question, with all due respect. Are you sure you're being fair? I wouldn't say it if I didn't think I was fair. And if you don't think I'm being fair, then challenge me. Then show me where I'm not fair. Show me where I'm not fair. Yeah. Are you sure you're right? Well, I wouldn't say it if I didn't think I was right. Are you sure? It's just, show me I'm wrong. But he has, in a sense, in my view, and I know you guys disagree, he has no good side. He once in a while has a good opinion. He once in a while does a good thing. But I don't think Donald Trump as a human being has a good side. he's a complete and utter pragmatist. He's an anti-ideologist. He's not just a non-ideologist. He's an anti-ideologist. That is not a good thing. I didn't say most Trump voters are apologists. I said that some Trump supporters and a lot of people who come to my page and who responded the way they responded, and maybe you're one of them, to my criticisms of Trump were apologists. I can give you example after example. I mean, if you think that Trump going and sucking up to the leader of North Korea, the brutal dictator of North Korea, is 3D chess, then you're an apologist. I'm sorry. It's irrational. It's not consistent with any objectivist principle. Biden's horrible. You know, as I said, I'll have Biden derangement syndrome once he wins the election. I mean, Biden got this, Biden did that. You know, fine. We'll attack Biden when it's relevant. Trump was awful. I called him as the awful he was. I'm not comparing Trump to Biden as presidents. I'm comparing Trump to Biden as the impact on the world and the impact on our ability to live and to change the world in the future. I've said this all along. This is a long-term play. Trump was accelerating us towards authoritarianism, accelerating us towards decay. That is my view. And it's accelerating the left to become worse and the right to become worse. And yeah, okay. Yes, so the admission, here it is. I'm criticizing Trump, and I'm saying what's wrong with Trump, and it's TDS. Now that's what I call an irrational Trump supporter. As soon as you bring up the TDS, you have labeled yourself. I don't have to anymore. All right. Looking at the election map again, see if anything's changed. Arizona, 60,000 votes. Nevada's not changing because they're not reporting on votes. Wow, I mean, Biden could win Georgia. I mean, Georgia's, maybe he won't, it's hard to tell. But Georgia's within 3,500 votes. 3,500 people. That's the difference in Georgia right now. Yeah, I think Trump's won North Carolina. I'm not sure why they're holding it out. Pennsylvania, who knows? There's still 6% of the vote, and the gap is under 60,000. So a bunch of votes are being reported, and Biden did not catch up to Trump. If they're committing fraud, they're not very good at it. So I still think Biden's path to winning this is Arizona and Nevada. I think that's how he wins this. I'm not sure he's going to win Pennsylvania. He might win, or it's going to be very, very close in Georgia. There's definitely going to be a recount in Georgia, given how close it is. So it is really interesting. But what I'm hoping for, I'm just looking at the Senate. They still haven't called the Senate seats. Unfortunately, Georgia looks like both Georgian seats are going to have a runoff, which means we won't know until January whether the Republicans will keep the Senate. But if they win in North Carolina and they win in Alaska, which I think the odds clearly favor them winning in both those places, then that'll give them 50, and then all they have to do is win one Georgia seat and they have control of the Senate. So it looks really good for Republicans controlling the Senate, which, as you know, I've been in support of all along. Right? All right. That's an hour and a half already. Wow. Let me, because we drifted on all these things, you know, my focus today, I wanted my focus to be on the positive point. Live your life. Think about all the positives around the world in your life. One of the, think about the potential that we have. There are 8 billion people on planet Earth. Many of them still do not live in need of even semi-freedom. But more and more of them are living under relative freedom. Think about what that does to progress. Think about billions of minds working on problem solving. Billions of minds entering the global economy, creating goods, solving problems. Think about all the geniuses born yesterday who are going to shape the world in the future. That's the orientation. That's the way we should think about the world. The world is a wonderful, fantastic place. The world, not just America. And we should embrace that idea and embrace freedom so that we can fully get all the benefits of that. Embrace freedom so that those individuals can live their life, a full life, a complete life. Give them the moral tools, the philosophical equipment to live great lives. And by doing that, we will make all of our lives better. So focus on the beauty, the upside, the potential, the growth, the innovation, the success, the fact that the globe, in a sense, there's more people, more ideas, more stuff, more trade, potential than ever before. And let's figure out how to benefit from that and how to maximize its impact by ennobling each one of those lives. And we have the right ideas. So, the obsession with elections and Trump and politics and Trump derangement syndrome and whatever. And fighting within the objectivist movement and all this stuff. What a waste of time. When there is a huge amount of work to do to grow this, to expand this philosophy, expand its reach, not expand the philosophy itself. Expand the reach of this philosophy, get these ideas into the minds of more and more people, globalize it, access all the resources available out there to improve all of our lives. All right. Tomorrow there's an Ayn Rand Institute conference. Hopefully some of you are signed up for it. If you haven't, you should. It's about the Enlightenment ideas. It starts tomorrow evening. Check them out. Check out the conference. You can find it on the Ayn Rand Institute website. I'll be speaking there. I'll be doing a Q&A tomorrow with Onkar Gate tomorrow night. I'll then be giving a talk on Saturday on the consequence of the Enlightenments. It'll be a very positive talk, so it'll be inspiring. So I hope you'll join the Ayn Rand Institute conference. You can sign up. I think tomorrow's talk by Onkar and my Q&A is free. So you can sign up and enjoy it tomorrow night. You can go to the Ayn Rand Institute website to find it. Also, so I won't be doing a show on Saturday or tomorrow. Next show is on Sunday. I'll also be giving a talk in Brazil on Saturday. The beauties of technology. I'll be giving a talk in Brazil. Actually, Tal Tzfani, the CEO of IOI, is actually in Brazil, physically, on a speaking tour in Brazil. And I'm giving a lecture by Zoom in Brazil at the same time. We're making progress in Brazil. That's cool. 250 million people in Brazil. All right, I'm losing my voice. Don't forget to like the show before you leave. If you're enjoying the content, please support the show at yourandbrookshow.com/support, or Locals, or Subscribestar, or Patreon, however you want. Very, very much appreciated. Makes all this stuff possible. And I will see you guys on Sunday. So have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.